severe storms, flooding, hot heat, and even maybe a tropical system in the Gulf are all on the docket for about the next week. My name's Dylan. Welcome to the forecast with Dylan. Let's get into it. We're just going to kind of go in order here. This is the day 2 SPC outlook. Okay, so we have an enhanced risk in effect over here for areas in Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire up here. Okay, this is driven by a 5% SIG 1 tornado risk, a 30% SIG 1 wind risk, and a 15% SIG 1 hail risk. All right. Now, I do believe the tornado probabilities, there's a chance this could go up. Okay, so we could see this 5% maybe brought out farther, and we could see a 10% kind of be embedded here in this. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying this is my opinion that it's possible. We would kind of have to have a little bit of uptrend in those thermodynamics tonight. I'll show you a little bit about that and why I'm saying that. But yeah, it's a possibility, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on it. All right, I'm going to take you over to the simulated reflectivity on the 18Z HRRR, and I'm going to show you this model in particular. So this is, let's just get a look at kind of how these storms are going to behave. So this is 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. We'll have some rain and maybe some thunderstorms roll through kind of the northern portion of Maine here in the morning tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon. This, depending on how this performs, may be kind of a difference maker for our severe storms, okay? If this ends up getting out of here earlier, we could have a more unstable environment, okay? If it ends up getting out a little bit later, we could have a stabler environment, which would support less kind of thunderstorm development and those damaging winds and hail and tornadoes and everything. Here is our main event. All right, so these storms are going to start to build in around 5 o'clock Eastern time for Montreal and Quebec. Now, I am concerned about a higher risk being in place up here near Montreal and Quebec, because a lot of the soundings I've pulled from a vast majority of models do think that a higher risk will be in place up here. So who knows, if things start popping up here, we might be able to cover some of that. We're going to push this forward. This is 6 p.m., 7 p.m. tomorrow, and you can see these kind of semi-discrete supercells are going to start to move into Maine and Vermont here around 7 Eastern time. And if we kind of keep this pushing, they'll stay semi-discrete, it looks like all night. And they will keep posing that threat in Maine and Vermont here, maybe a little bit of New Hampshire into the overnight hours. So yeah, if we keep this kind of pushing here, yeah, so Vermont and New Hampshire will kind of see some of this action a little bit later into the night, maybe like 12 a.m., 1 a.m. I think by 1 a.m. our severe threat should be mostly over. You can see kind of those will dissipate. So I think by 1 a.m. the threat will be over. But here is where that primary threat looks to be taking place. Okay, so between 7, 8, and 9, maybe 10 p.m. Eastern time, these little beans here are going to pose a risk, okay? And even at like 10, we'll have some more developing back up here in Canada. They're going to try to slide down this way. Those could pose a risk as well. By 12 or 1 a.m., the threat should be over, but those peak hours are going to be between 8 p.m. and 1 p.m., at least it looks like it to me. Let's take a look at the environment they're working with. This is the instability here, and if we push this back to 5, 6 o'clock, you can see this is going to start to build this instability off to the east, and you can see they're going to be working with between 2,500 and 3,000 joules per kilogram. Okay, 3,000 is between 3,000 and 3,500 if you go up farther north towards Montreal and Quebec. So these storms are going to have a good amount of energy to work with here, okay? I can switch this over to the low-level wind shear, and there's a lot of that in place as well. If we go to 8 p.m., where that kind of primary threat is between 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 1, you see there's a lot of low-level wind shear here, all right? We've got between 30, 40, even up in the 60s in some places. And this is at the lowest level of the atmosphere. So this is going to allow those storms to really spin and start rotating. Here is the UH tracks of the entire kind of model run. Now, this particular product here has downtrended since this morning. So these are I like to call them simulated tornado tracks. They're really where rotating supercells. The model expects rotating supercells to track. Okay, so as we can see here, these guys are going to come down from Canada and they are going to track to the southeast, and they are going to go through Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont down here. Okay, let's look at the significant tornado parameter. This is also downtrended since this morning, believe it or not. The HRRR model now shows more kind of that tornado energy off to the north. This is, sometimes you can't tell a lot by this. It just gives you a general idea, and I like to show it because it's simple. But, I mean, basically think of this. The higher the values, the more ingredients in the atmosphere there is for a significant tornado. Okay, and this is talking about significant tornadoes, not tornadoes in general, all right? You can get a tornado with, like, 0.5 or, like, 1 STP. This is the significant tornado parameter. And as you can see here, just to the north of that U.S.-Canada border up here near Montreal and Quebec, you can see these values are, like, in the 4s and 5s. So we have a lot of tornado juice just to the north of the border here in Canada, and you can see we do have a lot of that down here in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, and it's going to kind of push to the south. By 10 p.m., that tornado energy is going to be gone. By 1, it's going to be basically non-existent. That's why I think by 1, our threat will be over. Really, by 10, our rotating supercell threat should be over, but those damaging winds are going to get us. Let me show you that flooding threat I was talking about. We have 3 moderate flooding risks in a row. All right, so this one is for today. This is kind of South Texas here to the west of San Antonio. There's a small little moderate area, but if you notice here, there is a huge slight risk area. This extends into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and a little bit of Tennessee. All right, so all of these places are in sort of a risk for flash flooding today. We've got some flash flood advisories, I believe, in kind of western North Carolina. I'm not sure about any of these other places, although I do know mesoscale discussions are in effect for the potential flooding in a lot of these places right now. If you look at tomorrow's risk, there's also a moderate risk of flooding in the same area. The slight risk only extends as far east as Houston and to kind of the eastern Texas border here, but there is still a marginal risk in effect for a good majority of the kind of the southern part of the country. All right, so this still goes into Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, and it also goes west. All right, so this is going to cover like New Mexico, Utah, Arizona, California, Nevada, and some Colorado. And this is Wednesday's risk again in the same area here in western Texas to the west of San Antonio. There's a small slight risk area around it, and then there's a marginal risk that expands for a large portion of kind of the western half of the country here. This is going to be covering once again New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, like Idaho, some Nevada, and a lot of Montana. Just get an idea of how much rain might fall. Let's take a look at the Euro. This is the total precipitation accumulation. This isn't, high definition, like one of the high res models, but it gives us a good idea. Take a look at this. 4.75.4 inches in a lot of these places. This is a lot of rain. And especially when it starts falling day after day after day with basically no mechanism to actually, dry that up, right? The sun's not going to come out. And that was just like a generalization there from the Euro, because again, it's not a kind of high definition model. Let's take a look at the RFS. This goes out 84 hours as of this morning, and we'll take a look. This is Thursday at 8 a.m. So this is after a majority of this rain has already fallen. Take a look west of San Antonio, 11, 12, 10 inches in some pockets here. We can get really nitty gritty. 12.8 inches in Ciudad Acuna, 7.09 inches in Camp Wood, 6 inches in Rock Springs, 6.64 inches in Brackettville, north of Uvalde here. And if we get real nitty gritty, we can see 11.8 inches in Leakey, 15.62 inches in Utopia, 16.48 inches in San Carlos. I believe that's on the other side of the border. Yeah, it's on the other side of the border. So this area in western Texas here can expect to see a lot of rain over the next 3 days. All right, so it's essential that these people know, the golden rule: turn around, don't drown. If you see floodwaters, turn around, don't go through it, because that is the number one way people get injured or pass away in these kind of flash flooding events. I mentioned the potential of a tropical system developing in the Gulf this week, and it has been shown the past couple days by the Euro and like the really high range AI ensemble models. That signal has kind of been downtrending over the past couple hours as these newer models for today come out, but it is possible. Right, I'm gonna throw up a screenshot here of one of those models because I can't find it for the life of me again right now.
But bam, it's there.
But yeah, so if this does develop, which don't get me wrong, I highly doubt it will. And if it does, it's going to be nothing but a rainmaker. It's going to go through Florida and right back up on the coast of South Carolina. All right, this is how the current track is looking. So be prepared for some rain down here on the southeast in the southeast and on the coasts here, okay? Because you're going to get a little bit if this tropical system develops. I'll keep you updated on that. I doubt it'll do anything, but the signal has been strong. It's starting to weaken, so it's a coin toss. I mean, you can flip a coin and determine what's going to happen from that, basically. I mentioned hot temperatures. They're back in store for the next week. It's going to be hot, all right, and there's not much I can do about it. We can take a look at the Climate Prediction Center outlook here, and yeah, it's going to be hot. I mean, if you're in the Northeast, you get a little bit of a break, but we can go down here on the that was the 6 to 10 day. We can go to the 8 to 14 day, and in some places up here it'll be average, but down here on the West Coast, on the really just the western side of the country, and the southeast, it's going to be hot. And if we look at the July monthly, the new one, it's going to be hot. So yeah, I think that's all for me. I think that's everything I said I would cover. Apologies if the video is a bit laggy. I don't know what's going on with my encoder. It kept telling me it was overloading, and then like it'll be really laggy on the recording end. I'll notice that in editing. If it's broken, I'll fix it. I'll have it fixed by the next forecast video. You can expect us to be live tomorrow night. It might be a late one. I don't know. I've got some cool stuff I developed that we're gonna attempt to show off tomorrow night. So you want to be there. All right. Thanks for watching the forecast with Dylan. My name's been Dylan. Have a great day.